of the Hive, Chapter 4, Part 2. Twilight was so engrossed in her studies that she didn't notice the sun had set a while ago. Page after page, word after word was consumed by a ravenous hunger for knowledge. The former librarian had just opened up her third book when a drone stopped by. "Order up!" Twilight's head jolted away from the page to see a familiar face holding a small food tray on his back and giving her a warm smile.
"Wait, Ratchet? Ratchet, hey, how have you been?"
She climbed to her hooves and gave him a friendly nuzzle. She pulled away and spotted a faint blush on his cheeks.
"Well enough. Mother heard that you never took your dinner rations and figured you were so busy, so I brought you some dinner." "Oh, that was thoughtful of her. Let me get my stuff packed. I wouldn't want to potentially ruin any books with spilled food."
Still not trusting her flying abilities under such a heavy load, Twilight opted to walk to one of the wooden and brass benches right outside of the library to eat. The mare found that her brother brought a different meal this time.
"I thought you might like Supreme Pizza. It's a favorite amongst the alumni."
Twilight set her saddlebags down and levitated the tray to be in front of her. The aroma that hit her after lifting the dish cover made her stomach protest being ignored for so long.
"Oh, it smells great. I seem to forget to eat when I study."
She saw him fidgeting in front of the bench.
"Why don't you join me? I could use some company." "Oh, sure, sis,"
he replied, enthusiastically taking a seat. Twilight spied the trio of love crystals on her tray and yelped out of remembrance.
"I'm glad it was you who brought me dinner. I have something to give you."
She lifted the tray above her so she could dig into her bags before withdrawing the crystal filled with Celestia's love.
"Didn't she say love is meant to be shared?"
She faced Ratchet and gave him the crystal.
"Here, I still owe you from yesterday."
He eyed it quizzically as she deposited it into his hoof.
"You saved one from lunch just to give it to me?" "Well, no, that's some of the love that Celestia gave me. I don't think I'll go starved for a whole week thanks to her."
He couldn't stop his jaw from dropping.
I don't know what to say. Do you know how powerful freely given love is to its intended recipient? It would do you far more good than it would ever do for me. But Celestia said that love is meaningless if it's not shared. Of course the princess thinks love is more than an abstract concept, rather than a resource, but still, I want to share it with you."
A ghost of a smile found its way on his face.
"Well, thank you, really, but if you want to share your love, then let me give this back and I'll take one of the crystals on your tray instead."
She furrowed her brow at the suggestion.
"Why does it matter which crystal you use? Isn't it all the same?" "For me, yes, but this is love."
He handed the gift back.
"Was love given to you, for you. Because of that, you would receive at least 5 times as much nourishment from it than I ever could."
Her ears dropped a little along with her voice.
"Oh, well, here then."
She placed Celestia's love back on her plate and gave Ratchet 2 of her other crystals.
"What you did still means a lot to me. And since I still have 6 crystals worth here, giving you 2 shouldn't be a problem then. If anything, the second one can be for bringing me dinner."
Ratchet knew that she was just trying to be kind and accepted them without protest.
"Thanks, sis. I appreciate it."
Her smile grew, and she wrapped her foreleg around him and pulled him into a sidelong hug.
"Hey, brothers and sisters look out for each other, right?"
He chuckled at her expected casual demeanor and hugged back.
"Yeah, we most certainly do."
A few hours after sundown, Twilight returned to the Queen's bedchambers. Her wings ached every time that she tried to fly a long way with such a heavy load, so she walked most of the way. Twilight found Cadista had brought in an easel and canvas along with an assortment of paints. A collection of artwork had also been placed on pedestals around the room. The Queen spoke without looking away from her drawing of a verdant forest.
"You left quite an impression on Sprocket today." "I did?"
asked a bemused Twilight as she trotted over to inspect the painting.
"Why, yes. Most students balk or tremble at the workload that he gives them. A bit of an intimidation tactic that he uses to separate the wannabes and the will-bes. I didn't tell him that you were Celestia's star pupil, so he was refreshingly surprised to see your eagerness to learn."
Twilight pulled one of her books out to read and breathed in the intoxicating aroma of knowledge.
"There's just so much to learn. Can I take the rest of today and tomorrow to study?"
Cadista put the finishing touches on a tree before facing Twilight.
"Well, that is what Sprocket asked of you. But before you do, there are still a few things that you need to learn."
Always eager for new knowledge, Twilight levitated her saddlebags and book over to lie next to the rest of her belongings before giving Cadista her undivided attention. The Queen cleaned her brushes and prepared her other supplies to be left alone for a while.
"Now, what do you know about the trade agreement that we have with Equestria?"
Twilight rubbed her head as she searched her randomly cobbled together memories.
"I know we import steel and coal, and I believe we export machinery, but I can't recall anything else."
Cadista nodded, while levitating a short knife from a chest of drawers.
"The piece that you are missing, Twilight, is something that we changelings call salve. It's a gel-like substance that we produce that can repair skin, stop bleeding, and prevent infection."
Her tone shifted to be rather condescending.
"And those hives that still wrap themselves in chitin can use it to repair that too. Each hive has their own brand, as it were."
Cadista continued.
The salve we produce can't repair chitin, as I have long since found its use in both queen and drone to be uncivilized. As a result, our salve has been tailored to work on skin to a much more effective degree. It makes sense, but this sounds like medical stuff, so why would this be considered basic knowledge?
Twilight asked while eyeing the knife floating next to her queen. Cadista knew Twilight wouldn't understand unless it was shown to her.
We make it within ourselves. Allow me to demonstrate.
Cadista raised her left foreleg and used the knife to make a shallow cut a few inches above her fetlock. Twilight winced, but said nothing. Cadista raised the wound to her mouth and spat a wad of orange gel onto it before using her magic to soothe the substance across the wound.
It hardened shortly after being exposed to air, so it's very useful in saving some pony's life and medical aid is too far away. All you need is soapy water to clean it off later.
Twilight studied the orange liquid on her queen's leg.
So I was submerged in salve while I was in the chrysalis?
Cadista nodded.
That is what gave the fluid its color, yes, but this is not what turned you into a changeling. Salve is only designed for healing.
The more Twilight looked at it, the closer and closer she felt to remembering something.
Wait a second,
She fell on her haunches and clutched her head as a flood of old memories came rushing back. A cascade of images of a pink alicorn with reptilian eyes, green fire surrounding her in a throne room, dark crystal caverns, and fighting scores of black changelings with being side by side 5 ponies. And other memories tried to cram into her mind all at once. Cadista was at her side, and hesitated for a moment before wrapping a leg around Twilight.
Hold on, I will ease your pain.
The queen deepened her mental connection with Twilight and spread her pain across the link. The young princess removed her hooves from her head as the pain abated.
Thank you. I remember parts of a wedding when I saw a changeling for the first time in my life. Chrysalis.
Cadista spat the word as if it was poison.
She did everything in her power to make us look like monsters.
Twilight only barely listened as images of the attack came back to her.
Yeah, she did.
She muttered sullenly, and now being associated with such beings.
Chrysalis is not one for caring about the well-being of others.
Cadista spat.
The most telling attribute of her callousness is what she's done to her Hive's salve.
Twilight momentarily forgot the disturbing images of ponies being wrapped in cocoons against their will to look at her queen.
What do you mean? You should know, Twilight, that even hives that care little for the common drone have always kept trying to improve their version of salve. If for nothing else than to allow their drones to recover from minor to medium injuries. Chrysalis, on the other hoof, re-engineered her hive's salve to be a grotesque method of restraining their captives. Instead of possessing any healing properties, it's sticky to everything except chitin. It's absolutely revolting.
She cursed the other queen's name before seeing Twilight's cowed face and softened her expression.
I apologize, Twilight. I shouldn't get so heated at the mere mention of her name.
The lavender changeling nodded and resumed a more neutral posture again.
Did the other hives act against her for attacking Canterlot?
Cadista's face became unreadable.
In their own way. Nubal and Thorania suspected that she would be weakened from the failed invasion and attempted to annex some of her lands. Elindris and Tristrul are her younger sisters, so they have little choice but to remain allies with her. However, the rest of us are unsure, and have called for a summit of the queens to decide what the Hive should do about Chrysalis bringing us into the global spotlight. The very last place that we wanted to be.
Twilight mused aloud.
Well,
Cadista replied wistfully.
I at least feel we'll do this better this way than hiding in the shadows, but Mother and I never agreed with most changeling traditions. When are you going to the summit?
Cadista's smile fell a little.
I'm afraid that's going to be when we are going the day after tomorrow.
Twilight's eyes dilated to the size of saucers.
Wait, why am I going? Outside of our personal relationship, Twilight, as far as the rest of my hive is concerned, you are an equal with your siblings. At least until you decide that you want to be more. However, general tradition states that you are my heir and thus you must attend with me. It would be seen as a grievous insult to the other queens if you didn't. There are many traditions that I can cast aside, but this is not one of them.
Twilight broke out into a cold sweat.
But I don't know the first thing about traditions, or posturing, or politics, or any of that stuff. I've only been a changeling for 2 days! Well, technically, you could have been considered a changeling once I started feeding you love in the chrysalis.
Cadista wrapped a leg around Twilight.
I know. And after hearing that they were calling a summit, I had hoped that you would not hatch until after it began. But alas, that was not meant to be.
Several hairs started to frazzle out of Twilight's mane and tail.
I don't want to get you or the Hive in trouble because I don't know any better.
Cadista had to put forth serious effort not to ease Twilight's mind.
She needs to recover from this on her own, or she'll never make a good leader. Don't worry. I'll be there to both protect and guide you. No pony would dare harm another during the summit.
Her tone grew sardonic.
Ever a time of peace between us, to be sure.
Twilight remembered a calming technique and slowed her breathing while moving her upraised hoof to her chest, and backed away on the exhale. Cadista watched with curiosity as her daughter centered herself. When she opened her eyes again, Twilight's face was even and calm.
I think we gotta find our original topic about the salve.
Cadista felt a lopsided grin crease her face.
That we did. Let me show you how to use it. After that, we should call it a night.
I have a feeling that her going to that meeting is probably just to get the experience in. She probably won't have a heavy say on what to do or what not to do, maybe, who knows. Anyways, let's get on to our leaders of donators. Top donators: TacoCat598, Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, Darkside, and Only One Thing. Zar630, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, CrazyKiller557, Stu Hex, Will, Omicron Lyrae, Chris, Michael Dale Moore, Dospo, Delta Omega, Jack Edge, RuneScyther9852, Madman Stan, Leslie Prickett, Drake Lovedragon, Hunter Norman, Stephen Bingham, LionGod12, Sorcerer Constantine, Hudzaza, Conver, and many more amazing people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.